My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about boundaries. I've been hesitating to talk about this subject because the term boundary, I think, is really being overused. I think the terms trigger, trauma, narcissist, they're all being overused. So I didn't want to continue doing that. However, I do think there are some very important things to talk about when we talk about boundaries, such as can boundaries actually initially cause more stress? And what I found out with many of my clients is that the answer is yes, it can, because most people respond to a boundary with anger and more attempts to control. So I think I want to talk about that today. So let's start off with, why would you even want to make a boundary in the first place? Well, there's lots of reasons. You do it to protect yourself from being taken advantage of. You do it to protect yourself from getting hurt, from being abused, from being emotionally drained. In other words, you keep saying yes to things when you actually want to say no. So therefore, boundaries can reduce stress. It can increase your self-esteem. Again, if you're living up to your values and virtues, or on a particular day that you're actually making a boundary with somebody and you don't want them to cross it, if you don't allow them to cross it, it will increase your self-esteem. If you keep bending all the time and shape-shifting and doing exactly what other people want, even though you don't want to do that, that will, of course, lower your self-esteem. So boundaries overall, when you're dealing with, let's say, two healthy people, it does create a good, healthy, productive relationship. Now, making boundaries also helps you from unconscious people. Now, I'm trying to say that the nicest way possible. The other way to say it is that it protects you from people who actually are trying to hurt you, are trying to take advantage of you, and who are malicious. So yes, boundaries will help your mental health, and it helps create healthy relationships. But again, can it cause more stress and more difficulty in your relationships? And the answer is yes, because new problems can arise from it. So as we're going through this, in terms of how to make a boundary, I think other things have to be in place first. So like, number one, you have to know who you are, and you have to know what you want. Without that, you're not going to know where your boundaries are. Number two, in order to make boundaries, you have to overcome your own anxious attachment. In other words, you can't be afraid of disappointing somebody else. You can't be afraid of rejecting other people. And you can't be afraid of, if you hurt somebody's feelings or if they get angry, that they're going to reject you. If you have problems in any of these areas, it's going to be very difficult to make a boundary, or if you do, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that boundary. So assuming you have all that lined up, the next big hurdle is going to be, how do you deal with somebody else's anger? Let's start off from the beginning. I think it's awareness. Why awareness? Because people who don't respect other people's boundaries, they have a character flaw. Now, I'm being nice here. They could have a personality disorder as well, but let's not go that far. Let's just say that they have a character flaw. So setting a boundary here won't stop them, because it's a way of life. It's how they deal with people. Now, you're forcing them to be other-centered. You're forcing them to actually care about what you need and what you want at the expense of themselves. So now they're becoming other-centered instead of self-centered. This is going to be very difficult for them, because most of the time they feel very entitled and they can't manage their own emotions and feelings by themselves. So they try to manipulate, coerce, or try to control other people. And in this way, they don't have to deal with their own stuff. They don't have to get better as people. And so they're going to try to run right over the top of you. And what's going to happen is they're going to resent the fact that now you're standing up and now you're wanting them to change. It's probably the last thing that they want to do. Now, another thing of awareness, we have to know this. Their anger is their problem. It's not yours. It's going to be very difficult to do, but you have to let them be angry. In order to help you at this, you want to be able to anticipate their anger and the things that they can do or say to you that might cause any type of harm. For example, you might know that they might say some very negative things about you to try to make you change or to go along with what they want. Knowing that they're going to say this in a fit of anger can help you out to realize it's not going to come out of the blue. It's not going to come from left field, so to speak. You're already going to be prepared for what they're going to say. You can also be prepared in terms of finances. Now, there are some people out there, and I've had clients like this, where if they want to stand up in their relationship, it can be damaging to them in terms of finances. So it's good to know where you stand and where you can be hurt, and if and when and how to proceed, because you don't want to be harmed in that way. So you want to be able to protect that. Now, on the other side of this, if it comes down to it, you might have to create some type of physical distance. And what I mean by that is if you make a boundary and somebody gets angry about that, again, it's their anger, not yours. And you can be empathetic with them, you can be compassionate with them, but that doesn't mean you have to change who you are and what you need to appease their anger. You don't have to fawn. You do not have to be codependent. You do not have to go along, if it's at that level, to a level of abuse. You shouldn't, and you should never have to go along with that. So if there's a situation happening, you might have to leave the room. Now, if you're dealing with someone who is going to break that boundary too, including a door, whether they want to continue there or yell through the door, open up the door, they don't allow you your space there, well, then you're going to have to leave the house. And I do understand this day and age, obviously, that we all have phones. You might have to block them because it's not right, and it is another breaking of a boundary if you need some time for yourself or not wanting to engage with an angry person who is not willing to compromise, meet in the middle, or to try to get better in any way. You shouldn't have to go somewhere and then be subject to as many text messages as they want to send to you. Again, that's a breaking of a boundary. Now, another important thing here, if you're the type of person who can't make boundaries or have a lot of difficulty making boundaries and a lot of difficulty maintaining them, or you're a type of person who wants to break other people's boundaries, these two types of situations, you will never, well, I shouldn't say never, but it's doubtful that you're going to be made out for a good relationship. So again, if you can't accept boundaries or you can't make boundaries, you're going to have difficulty in any relationship you're in. So I would recommend, or I would suggest, you trying to fix that problem. Because if you don't fix that problem of, again, being able to accept somebody else's boundaries or to make appropriate boundaries for yourself and holding to them, it means that you're going to think that there's a problem in that relationship when there's a problem with how you're dealing with boundaries. And you're going to think that the way to solve it is to be in another relationship. And what you're going to find out is you're going to end up having the same exact problem over and over again. And so you could either fix your boundary problem now, or you can fix it, even though it's not a fix, you can fix it by having multiple relationships and then waiting for the boundary problem to appear again. And then you're going to be in the same situation. So fix it now. That would be the answer. So again, real quick, let's do a review. Boundaries are great. It protects yourself. It increases your self-esteem. and it's also a pathway to have good, healthy relationships. However, with certain people, when you're working with boundaries, it causes them to respond in a way that's very angry and more manipulative and more coercive and more controlling. In that situation, you're going to have to deal with that. Again, have the awareness to know that this could happen and understand that their anger is their anger. And then you're going to have to let them, and you could help with them if they want to, and only if they want to. You can come to some type of compromise or talk about what's actually going on with them in terms of their attachment with somebody, that they feel like they need to put that much control on another person, and where they associate love with some type of control. So I hope that was helpful for you today. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.